totally successful for our organization. And it wasn't just about, that we knocked out a grant and it worked out and we got the support, but it really was successful because it started building this broader groundswell of support for what we do as an organization. It started building this groundswell of support for protecting land, for building new trail, for educating kids on the trail. And it really helped amplify our message like tenfold all of a sudden, whether it was through social media. We saw people posting all the time. So, what do we want out of that? We wanted a successful grant. We wanted to be able to go back to tourism and say, look, we knocked it out of the park. We did that. But really what it boiled down to was taking care of the people and giving them something to do in October when they're in lockdown and say, check us out.
Welcome to Over a Pint, where we focus on the fast-paced, never-changing world of marketing, told through the eyes of industry veterans with decades of in-the-trenches experience. No theory here. This is real-world, practical experience told to you by those that have been there, and that does include our guests. So grab a pint of your favorite local brewski or whatever your choice of drink may be, and join us for the show. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Pat McGovern, new biz director at Acedia, an award-winning digital shop here in Milwaukee. And I'm Kurt Lingle, Vice President at Celtic, a full-service ad agency headquartered in Milwaukee's historic Third Ward neighborhood. So, Pat, you like to get outside, right?
As much as I can.
You go for a hike, run, get on the bike.
You know it.
Explore different parts of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's fair to say.
Yep.
So, what if I told you that I know of a 1,000 plus mile hiking/walking trail located exclusively here in the Badger State that was carved by glaciers 10,000 years ago? And this trail winds through some of Wisconsin's most pristine forests and thriving prairies. It can be rugged and wild at times. This trail passes along rushing rivers and along rocky ridges, through national forests and through some pretty cool towns where you can grab a beer, a bite, shop, spend the night, whatever you want to do. And on top of all that, this trail even felt the footsteps of John Muir himself many, many years ago. If I told you such a trail exists, Pat McGovern, would you want to check it out?
I want to check it out.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Our two guests today are here to tell us about this very trail, the Ice Age National Scenic Trail, and to talk about some very cool things that are happening on and around the trail in the month of October. So we have Luke Kloberdanz, Director of Philanthropy at the Ice Age Trail Alliance, the organization that helps build, protect, and promote this gem of a trail. And I will say, full disclosure, I've known Luke for a good number of years now, and to his credit, he still agreed to be on our show. So Luke, I owe you one. Thank you very much.
Glad to be
here.
And
we also have Zach Davis with us. Zach is the founder and editor-in-chief at The Trek, a media company dedicated to thru-hikers and long-distance backpacking enthusiasts. The Trek serves more than 200,000 unique visitors per month. Their following on social media is 400,000. And its flagship podcast, Backpacker Radio, is the #1 hiking podcast on iTunes. And Zach and some of his team are in Wisconsin the week of October 10 for some fun on the Ice Age Trail to promote a very cool promotion that's turned and coined the Mammoth Hike Challenge, which we'll get into in a little bit. So Luke and Zach, welcome to Over a Pint.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get started, we have a tradition on this show. It's called Over a Pint. So what we like to do is we like to go around the panel and everyone kind of shares what they are enjoying during our just conversation. So I'm going to start with Luke. What are you drinking?
Well, I am having a New Glarus Brewing Company Moon Man, one of their No Coast Pale Ales today, and it's all served up here in a custom Backpacker Radio Ice Age Trail Alliance steel mug from Clean Canteen that'll be part of next week's tour across Wisconsin for Zach and the team. Cheers.
Very cool. Cheers to you. What do you got, Zach?
Because Luke refuses to break the law and send me some spotted cow, I'm actually working on a, what is this? A Spindrift, just a sparkling water. I'm doing the sober October with the caveat of once I leave the state, that rule no longer applies.
Yeah, that works, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mr. McGovern.
Really excited about this one. This is the Oktoberfest from a local brewery in the area, the Fermentorium. I've had a lot of Oktoberfests. This is the time of year to have this. This thing is freaking delicious. So, Zach, when you come to town, make sure to grab one of these, okay? You're going to enjoy it.
Sign me up.
Good deal. So I'm trying something brand new today as well, and I actually am going with something from the Frimatorium Brewery as well. I'm going to plug them a little bit. They have two locations, one up in Cedarburg, which is about 20 to 30 minutes north of Cedarburg, of Milwaukee on Highway 60. Then they got a location just west of Milwaukee, 5 minutes or so, in Wauwatosa on North Avenue. And these folks are pumping out some really good beer, some really tasty beer. And I am enjoying one of their new releases. It's their German style Dunkelweizen. It's very tasty. And interesting fact about the Fermentorium Brewery, I stepped into this brewery for the first time this past summer after I had hiked a segment on the Ice Age Trail in the North Kettle Moraine. So in any event, cheers. Welcome to the pod.
Welcome.
Cheers.
All right. So we're going to get this going here. So Luke, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you in the hot seat first. And if you could, maybe in a minute or two, 3 minutes, just give us a top line of who you are, what your background is, how you came to the Ice Age Trail Alliance, and what it's all about, your role, everything. Just kind of slam it in, sandwich it into a very top line, condensed summary.
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned at the top of the show here, I am Director of Philanthropy, but never in a million years did I think I'd be writing grants and asking for support to cash to support our volunteers. I came to Wisconsin looking for a place to roam and stumbled across the Ice Age Trail. I was a teacher at the time, found this yellow blaze in downtown Lodi, Wisconsin, and started wondering what it was all about. So I'd done some backpacking, nothing major, and then started hiking more and more sections of the trail, started volunteering with the Ice Age Trail Alliance as a trail builder, and thought, I got to go check this thing out. So I was having a quarter life crisis and thought I'm going to go figure it out by a long walk, and had my wife drop me off at Potawatomi State Park. And for the next 47 days, I walked across Wisconsin and really fell in love. The hooks just got set on me, the people. Like I said, I had a little mini crisis. I was looking to get away from everyone, and it turned out that people in Wisconsin were just so welcoming. I was the 11th person to thru-hike it, so it's not like the Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest Trail. There, you didn't see people walking around with a backpack on when I did it. That's changed a little bit since then. So, and then I started a job here at the Alliance as an outreach and education manager. So started, hiking with school groups and doing tabling events, and eventually moved around a little bit until I've landed my current role of Director of Philanthropy. So I have the joy of working with people like Celtic and Zach and his team at Backpacker Radio and the Track, and just raising awareness and trying to generate revenue to support the 3,000 volunteers that are with us.
That's great. Zach, I'm going to go back to you. I'm going to go to you now. I'm going to put you in the same hot seat. If you could, just tell us your story, your background, what the Trek is all about, why you started it, and maybe its role in the hiking community.
Sure, I'll do the Cliff's Notes version. 2011, was depressed, was at the bar with a friend. He told me about this trail called the AT, at which time I had never gone backpacking in my life, but on a whim, I decided to join him. Fast forward to after the trail. Not only did I successfully do it, but I wrote a book about the hike called Appalachian Trials. From that spun a blog called Appalachian Trials, the blog. And just over time, people started to volunteer to write for the website. And before I knew it, we had hundreds of contributors and readers from around the world. Fast forward to 2015, and we rebranded as the Trek, as Appalachian Trials was very location specific sounding. And it is what it is today. Now we are home to the #1 hiking podcast called Backpacker Radio. I still do my best to get out on the trail, even though I'm wrangling a 9-month-old boy, little Leo. And yeah, I think that's kind of the brief synopsis.
Cool. If I could really quickly, I don't know if I caught it. Luke, where are you from originally? And I'm going to ask the same question to you, Zach. Where are your roots, original roots?
I grew up in Des Moines and then moved to Wisconsin from Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm from a small town called Woodstock, Illinois, which I know is not the most popular thing on the other side of the border, but I can proudly say that I am a Badger, graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2008.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit for those that might not be familiar with the Ice Age National Scenic Trail, and I want to touch on that too, because there's some significance there. Obviously, it's a National Scenic Trail. But Luke, if you could talk a little bit about the significance behind it being a National Scenic Trail, and then if you could talk about the connection your brand has with its audience. Just it's clear from my perspective, I've been around the trail my entire life, and there is a love for this trail that, amongst, members and volunteers, that it rivals what I've seen elsewhere in terms of, if you calculate the number of volunteer hours and the number of members, there's this loyalty is deep. People will bleed for this trail. So maybe talk about the significance behind what a National Scenic Trail is, and what is it about this trail that all of us here, so many in Wisconsin and beyond a little bit, the borderlines, love so much.
Sure. Yeah, I think, the significance of being a National Scenic Trail is something that we don't take for granted here at the Ice Age Trail Alliance. Our team of 20 people, more give or take, really just finds such a deep value in that. And so we were one of 11 National Scenic Trails. There are another 19 National Historic Trails that are all designated through legislation to exist and have partners at a federal level. So we partner with the National Park Service for this work. We're not the government. We are the nonprofit partner that supports the work of creating the trail. So, that significance is something that, as a collective between the scenic and historic trails, I think in a lot of ways we curate the American story. So you think about the glacial geology that we interpret on the Ice Age Trail, and then you can take the cultural history that might be on the Selma and the Montgomery Trail. You take all these 30 trails and you take what their focus is, and it really does give you a cross section of who we are as a nation, which is something that we have a lot of pride in, being a part of that story. So it's incredibly significant to us. We're one of 3 that is found all within one state, which I think also feeds into that pride that people have in this trail. When I first moved to Wisconsin, being a born and bred Hawkeye, I got all kinds of sort of badgering, if you will, about being from Iowa. And I realized quickly, boy, that pride, that's here. And then when you take a walk through this landscape and you are meandering in front of people's homes and they're like, hey, what you doing? And taking that time to talk and telling me things like, oh, you're not hiking the Ice Age Trail, that's the ox cart trail. We got that in our backyard. My grandpa had, the whole thing, the pride that people have in the land and the communities through which we pass. When the trail is complete, it'll pass through 137 communities. That also separates us. We're not this remote trail on a mountain range somewhere, but we actually intentionally go through these communities to share that quintessential charm that you can only find inside the Cheddar Curtain. And I think people really take a ton of pride in that. And you see it on Badger Game Day. You see it day-to-day out life on the trail. And so in a lot of ways, the way that the trail goes from the Lake Michigan shoreline to the prairies of the south to the deep woods of the north, it really does provide a complete glimpse of everything that is Wisconsin. And I think that's why people really get behind it, is because it showcases their home state in a lot of ways. And we see people coming from far away to see what that's all about.
Yeah. What's interesting is I as a little kid, I my first exposure to hiking was on the Ice Age Trail. And I think when I was younger, I didn't really get it. It was just I was hiking. And I think as I've gotten older and I've been around people and, getting to know you and just meeting people on the trail, that's when it really started to click in, like just how this is at a whole new level. People just, they love this trail. Zach, a question for you. You were talking about your background a little bit before in terms of how you got onto the AT. When you went to the school at University of Wisconsin, had you been on the Ice Age Trail a lot, or was that?
Did not even know it existed.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm especially excited to be back there in a week to see the state through a new light, because my time at Wisconsin was doing, I think, maybe the stereotypical college thing, going to a couple classes and spending a lot of time at the bar. But yeah, no, excited to be there during peak foliage and exploring the state on foot a little bit.
That's awesome. So Luke, in the beginning, I was kind of like painting the picture, thriving prairies and this and that. It sounded really good, actually. It was like this fluffy brand copy, but in all seriousness,
you should go into marketing.
Yeah, I thought it sounded good. I really painted that picture. But if you could, it is much more than that. And it is. You can get all different types of experiences. If you want to throw the backpack on and you want to get lost and go on a real backpacking trip, you can, but it doesn't have to be that. Talk about what hikers and walkers can expect when hitting the trail and maybe what surprises they might come along.
I really think the variety of this trail speaks to that experience. I mean, it totally depends on where you drop in. If you hike at Lapham Peak, you can expect to see hundreds of people going by you if the fall color is on and it's a weekend. You could take that exact same trip or exact same hike at the exact same time in the winter and have a totally different experience. And alternatively, if you're in the Northwoods, I mean, you don't see people for days on end. And I think that's the experience that we provide, is people can make this sort of safe entry into the hiking world at a place where they feel pretty comfortable. And then as they start becoming more and more comfortable with their craft, then they can get into some deeper woods and some more remote sections of trail. So it really provides just this good entry level and then a more expert level hiking, if you will, that people can go and have that experience. I mean, surprises on the trail are a dime a dozen. They really are, whether it's for me personally, some of my favorite surprises usually deal with like wildlife encounters in the Northwoods and hearing wolves howl at night or coming across some bears. I think that's always a thrill ride. But I was always just so sort of struck by the kindness of the people in this state. That's probably why I still live here today, is just the overwhelming sort of genuine excitement for other people having an adventure. And I think that's what resonates most for me personally, is just that idea of this project and how people get behind it. So the trail you take what the trail gives you and you make it your own. So I think that's what you can expect on the Ice Age Trail, is your own personal adventure.
Yeah. You're just talking about the kindness of the trail, and the people. That's such a big part of any experience. But I guess I'm going to throw a marketing or brand question at you, because whether it's a trail or whether it's you're a manufacturer or you're selling sandwiches, you're still a brand.
Right.
So I guess if you could, talking about the kindness of the people, if you had to assign a personality or to the trail, I mean, what type of personality, what type of DNA, what type of soul would you give the trail, the Alliance? And if you could, and answer that question however you want. You can answer it in words. If you say, it would look like this celebrity, whatever you want to do, but maybe paint it for us a little bit. What could we expect, the personality?
Yeah, I think so when I work with our volunteer crews and I'm out there building rock walls or boardwalks or whatever the case may be, I just see like really salt of the earth people that just love giving back, the selflessness of those people. And when they're out there, and it's not, I'm not talking about someone showing up and then leaving maybe after one day of volunteering, but I'm reflecting more on the people that have come out year after year, decade after decade. Some of our longest volunteers have been with us for almost 50 years now. And it's just this incredible dedication and the type of person I see is, probably someone who's, either got a Pickmatic or a folding saw in their hand, and they're just so happy that you are using something they crafted. And they spend hours and hours and hours on 30 feet of trail that the average hiker spends seconds on. And the idea that they spent the time to make your 30 seconds a dry boot experience gives them the most joy in the world. And so it's just that kindness and that just giving back piece that for me resonates and makes my job enjoyable, knowing I'm supporting.
Cool.
I don't know if I answered.
You did. No, you did. Absolutely, you answered it. And looking at the category as a whole, and this is gonna kind of be for the both of you. If you look at, and I don't want to focus on 2020, but let's talk about 2020 for a second. Obviously, that was an interesting and challenging year for many reasons. And obviously, a lot of businesses, different types of industries, business categories really suffered. But what we saw was trailheads and trails had never been busier. People were going there just because, probably for many reasons, probably because there wasn't as much to do, and it was a safe place to go. But the numbers don't lie. There was a surge in the outdoor industry, and people were hiking, biking, getting in the car, going to national parks, rediscovering their own state, their own backyard, their own state. I mean, to both of you, because you're both in the industry, what did you see? And how did it impact your business? Maybe talk a little bit about your experience and how it impacted your business and last year, and how it probably impacted some of the decisions you made.
Why don't you go first, Z Diddy?
Okay. So last year was probably the banner year for the outdoor industry. From all metrics that I've seen, it was the strongest year of all time. Obviously, strange forces came together to make that so. All of my friends in the industry had the best season ever. The constraint they ran into was the production cycles got messed up with COVID. So a lot of times the demand far outweighed the supply. Specifically for the Trek, it was actually a very challenging year. And that's for a couple of reasons. From the business standpoint, we run largely on affiliates, and one of our larger affiliate partners made the decision that they were cutting affiliate rates to try to compensate for the fact that they were losing a lot of their retail revenue. So that was especially challenging for us. Additionally, both the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and the Pacific Crest Trail Association made the decisions that they requested people to not thru hike their trails. And being that we are a website dedicated to thru hiking, and those two trails are the bulk of our content, we followed their lead and made the decision that we would not be sharing any blogger content from either the AT or the PCT. So our revenue source was choked, our content source was choked, and last year was a challenging year, both personally and professionally. But what I think the ramifications of that is there are a lot more outdoor enthusiasts that have carried over into this year. And obviously we're not out of the woods when it comes to COVID, but I think the way that the overwhelming group mentality about it has shifted. We know that being outdoors is one of the safest things that you can do, that generally hiking and backpacking is one of the few safe activities nowadays. So as much as we struggled last year, this year has been equally as good for us. And yeah, it's just been really exciting to see so many new people into getting outside in general, but specifically long distance backpacking and thru hiking. And obviously I'll let Luke speak to the Ice Age Trail, but last year was the busiest year, for instance, on the Colorado Trail, and this year surpassed that. They don't keep, the Colorado Trail Foundation doesn't keep firm statistics on that, but they have anecdotal reason to believe that both of those things are true. The PCT had a very big year. Basically every long trail that I track over the last 2 years, provided the nonprofit agencies that oversee them give their blessing, the interest in those trails has just exploded over the last 2 years.
What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, March of last year hit and we were kind of like, or 2020 hit and we were kind of just saying, okay, what are we going to do? what's the best thing for the communities. Going through a lot of communities, we don't want to know a bunch of hikers going through small towns in rural Wisconsin. How do we handle this? And we kind of wrestled with the idea of, do we stay open? Do we close trailheads that we can? What do we do here? And while our partners, the Wisconsin DNR, decided to close some parks, we decided to keep our spaces open. And we just felt like, if there's ever a time when people are going to need a trail, it's now. That we are a safe place to be, as Zach pointed out. And so we remained open. I think our strategy related to communications really changed dramatically because we had all these new people coming to the trail all of a sudden. So we kind of dialed it back from more advanced content, if you will, to sort of like hiking 101. Here's what the yellow blaze is. Here's how you follow it. Things I could have used coming from Minnesota. And I think that's the way that we tried to educate the new people coming to us, and how we tried to engage them and make sure they had a safe and enjoyable experience, as well as those around them. So, our membership grew by 1,500 people in 2020, which is, to give you what that means to us, is the first 60 years that we were an organization, we're able to get 4,000 members, and in the last year jumped by 1,500. So we saw incredible interest in our work, merchandise issues like we've never had before. How do we get the things that people want in their hands? So really trying to think about, how do we not only provide this resource for people, but how do we harness that energy of these people, and not just today, but how do we retain them moving forward? So, we're looking now at retention rates coming in for 2021. What's our strategy to then also get out and get the new people that are still coming to the trail engaged? So Mammoth Hike Challenge is one of those things we do with the Department of Tourism, Wisconsin Department of Tourism, to try to bolster these economies in the small towns that we pass through. So, for us, COVID was scary like everyone else, but we made the conscious decision to remain a safe place to go out and, just sort of process everything that was going on, and have that mental and physical wellness through the outdoors. And I think what we certainly saw was people saying, wow, where has this been my whole life? When I was doing outreach work here 5 years ago, I go into a room and raise your hand if you've heard of the Ice Age Trail, and I get a handful. Do that same thing now, and I have 2 handfuls or something. I don't know. There's quite a few more people that know about us now, and I think it's more increased marketing, just awareness of people coming out and saying, "Wow, this thing was really what I needed," and we heard it over and over again. So really happy that we made the decision to stay open.
Yeah, that's the trick. They say good habits and bad habits are hard to break. And last year, for whatever reason, a lot of people were getting outside, which is a great thing. And the trick is, obviously, they're out there for whatever reason it might be. How do we keep them from a retention perspective? When you talk about the Alliance, but Zach, it's also interesting to hear your perspective, because you're in the category how that impacted your business, maybe a little bit differently as well. But it's very interesting. So let's transition a little bit. So let's talk about the Mammoth Hike Challenge a little bit. So here we have 2020, an incredibly challenging year, and along comes the Mammoth Hike Challenge last year. So I want to break this into 2 parts. I want to talk about 2020 briefly, and then I want to talk about this year. So Luke, if you could talk briefly about, so last year during COVID, this idea comes, let's do a Mammoth Hike Challenge, and obviously through the state. Talk about where this idea came from. What was the original concept behind it? What was your hope and expectations for the inaugural year? Just talk about that briefly, and then we'll talk about this year.
Well, I mean, I'll work that in reverse. Our hope and expectations were, just that people had fun and were safe, I guess, and hopefully they go out and use the trail. But so the state of Wisconsin has something called joint effort marketing grants that they offer to groups like ours and other groups, and so it's sort of around destination marketing, and knowing that the trail is 1,200 miles across the state. We wanted to try to come up with something that we knew would be safe. Our volunteer projects, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We didn't know what the limitations were going to be by our partners in Department of Natural Resources or National Park Service. And so we were sort of turning to this idea of, all right, let's just give people an outlet for being out and enjoying themselves. And of course, everyone was working from home. So there was a little difference in schedule than perhaps normally. And so we saw a joint effort marketing opportunity come along, and we thought, you know what, let's throw our hat in the ring. And so we thought, what do people need? And it happened to be our 40th anniversary of being designated as a national scenic trail last year. So we said, let's challenge everyone to hike 40 miles. And in turn, to help support some of our Ice Age trail communities, we have 15 of those now. And as a effort to support them during this really tough time, let's encourage people to safely visit 3 trail communities. So you go hike 40 miles, either in one felt swoop, or you do it over the course of the entire month. You visit 3 trail communities. There's no documentation, anything like that. Just tell us you did it, and we'll send you a patch with the logo on your t-shirt, Kurt, that Celtic knocked out of the park for us. And just, we had a really high, lofty goal of 5,000 people. We thought, if we don't hit this mark, who cares? The world's going to end. It's COVID. We'll do our best. Ended up being that we had 7,200 people sign up for that, for the Mammoth Hike Challenge in 2020. We won an award from the Department of Tourism for that event, and it was just one of the things that just was totally successful for our organization. And it wasn't just about that we knocked out a grant and it worked out and we got the support, but it really was successful because it started building this broader groundswell of support for what we do as an organization. It started building this groundswell of support for protecting land, for building new trail, for educating kids on the trail. And it really helped amplify our message like tenfold all of a sudden, whether it was through social media. We saw people posting all the time. So what do we want out of that? We wanted a successful grant. We wanted to be able to go back to tourism and say, look, we knocked it out of the park. We did that. But really what it boiled down to was taking care of the people and giving them something to do in October when they're in lockdown, and say, hey, check us out. There's not a lot of places you can go. You're not going to the theater. You're not going to the mall. We're not doing whatever you normally did. Give us a shot. And you can take the loop around Janesville, which is a bike path. It's paved. It's very comfortable. You can do it in tennis shoes, or you can go to the Northwoods with us and get really weird. Either way, just go out and try it, and we'll be here to support you. So we created a ton of resources for people to get out safely and know that they'd be safe out there. And our volunteers again rallied to the cause and just said, hey, we'll make sure the trail's open. We'll make sure it's in good condition, and come out and join us. And it was a grand slam all the way around.
Yeah. And talk about an opportunity. And I know that wasn't the intention, but talk about an opportunity that fell in your lap. You had said it earlier, last year was almost about the 101, going back to people who maybe obviously were not familiar with the Ice Age Trail, and you had to kind of tell the story for the first time. This was an opportunity to market your brand, and what an excuse that it was. You had something that was unique, timely, and it was the Mammoth Hike Challenge, and that certainly exposed a lot of people to your brand. And just looking at some of the social engagement, when I looked at some of the the Facebook groups, it was amazing to me, just amazing, the passion and just the energy and how this was becoming so big. So it was pretty cool from a marketing perspective as well. So you throw a good party last year. And like anything, when you throw a really good party and it's successful, you throw a bigger one, right? And you invite more people. That's kind of, so you got Zach here. So it's like he wasn't at the party last year, but now Zach's coming to the party this year. So let's talk about 2021. It's bigger and better than ever. Lay it on us. What's new this year? What's going on with the Mammoth Hike Challenge? It's going on right now. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that we have to do it. We just have to do it now because people want it. So it's kind of become its own beast. And I think I'm gonna just circle back too about the brand. Kurt, your team at Celtic, and I'm not saying this just because you invited me to have a beer with you on this podcast, but you guys really knocked it out of the park for us. I mean, in terms of the the marketing that we did and digital advertising and everything that you guys brought to the table, I think just professionalized this on a whole new level that we wouldn't have been able to do without you guys. So thank you, first of all. And I see that same thing happening again this year. And we kind of have this following, but now we also have people going back to work, right? So more people are busier, and we're seeing all this sort of increased activity, and we're kind of wondering, like, okay, are people going to still be at the same level? And we know right now that we're at 6,000 people that have registered. We're above that trend from last year. So last year we weren't at 7,000 at the October 1. It doesn't work like that. People will sign up mid-month. But how do we make it bigger and better? It really came back for us around this idea of, nice shirt, Zach. It really came back into this idea of, is that extra small? It really comes back to this idea of really like, all right, how do we keep these people hooked? But even beyond that, how do we get beyond Wisconsin? Last year we knew that most of the people who are visiting us were all Wisconsinites, right? People that were like going in their backyard and literally hiking the trail. So in, I don't know, winter of last year, Zach, I don't know when it was, you invited me on your podcast, Backpacker Radio, to talk about Ice Age, and we were kind of chit-chatting afterwards, and Zach was telling me about, boy, I didn't even know the trail was there when I was there, and I was like, you should come back and do it. And we started talking about the road trip that they did in California, and Jim came up again, reached out to Zach. I said, hey, how serious are you about coming back to Wisconsin for a week? And knowing the prominence that the Trek and Backpacker Radio have in the long distance hiking community, we thought, boy, 400,000 followers across all those channels, love the content that they create anyway, saw the positive response that just the podcast that I was on gained, knowing that the Ice Age Trail is kind of one of those places where you don't have to get a permit to go through hike it. You may not see someone, or some of those other trails you're hiking with these communities, and knowing that we provide this solitude sprinkled among these stops and these trail communities, is a really unique experience. So we're trying to amplify this message beyond our state boundaries and, thinking regionally, but also nationally. It's time to act like a national scenic trail. We can't act like a state trail. So let's amp up this party a little bit and take it to a louder audience. So let's get some bigger speakers. Let's make sure that more people hear about it. So in the gym grant, we carved out some space for Zach and Chance and Elise to come join us for a week of touring Wisconsin, which is, I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's like all my favorite fish fries and dive bars and sections to trail to hike across the state are like, it's a trip that memory lane in some ways selfishly for me. But it's also showcasing some of our best stuff. And boy, Wisconsin in October, like, are you kidding me? What better time to be here, So, but I think Zach can probably point to some of the ways that or he envisions that road trip to sort of amplify who we are and what we do. So, Zach, you got something there? You're on mute.
Apologies, guys. I had to go on mute there for the wardrobe change. I forgot that I had some swag to represent there, but yeah, I'm not totally sure what the question is, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to answer it this way anyways. If you're like in the midst of pursuing a new career, or that you're on the fence about chasing your dream, just quit your job and go do it, because through the great state of Wisconsin, myself along with Juliana and Elise get to go basically on a vacation. Like, we couldn't be more excited about the prospect of hiking through the state of Wisconsin, going to fish fries, going to creameries, going to breweries, going to a Badger game. Like, legitimately, this is a vacation. And thanks to the support of the great state of Wisconsin, we get some financial help in doing so. And yeah, to be able to share that with the Trek and Backpacker Radio's audience, like, honestly, this is a dream job. And I'm just very grateful that there are people that are interested enough in me living my vacation along with my friends.
That's cool. Well, that was the question, Zach. Why quit your job next week? So you answered, you came in at the right time. So don't worry. But here, so let's go with that a little bit. So you're in town for fish fries, beer. Obviously, you're here to promote that you're doing some great stuff. We joke. Are you going to be? You're going to be on the trail, hiking, meeting people. I know you're speaking at some breweries. You want to just expand on that a little bit too, if you want.
Yeah, since the trail's so huge, we didn't want to get too lost in the weeds, spending, too big of a slice of the pie hiking the trail, because the way that I see it through my time in Wisconsin, I'm sure the trail is amazing and I'm very excited to see it, but I know that the towns of Wisconsin have so much to offer, and I want people to be able to experience both ends of that, like being able to end a day hike with a couple of pints and some curds or some fried cod or whatever it might be. Like, that is the ultimate day, and we want to showcase all ends of that spectrum, and we are going to very hard. We also have a hiker meetup that is in Delafield on the 13th. We have a live podcast, this will be the first time we've ever done that. We're 100 and some episodes in. We're closing in on 3 million downloads. So I feel like this is a pretty big deal for us to be doing our first live podcast event, but we couldn't be more excited. That's happening in Fitchburg on the 15th. So if you're in the Madison area, we'd love for you to come by. Don't forget to register, because there's a limited number of spots. And as I say this, we're probably getting close to that number. But yeah, honestly, we're going to be doing everything. Luke's built out a very robust itinerary that involves cheese, beer, fish, hiking, meeting with local trail enthusiasts. So we're going to be doing the full Wisconsin experience, and I couldn't be more excited.
I just put
you hit the whole trinity there with beer, cheese, and fish. Still need more.
Agreed.
I just put in my vacation request, and I have no part in what's going on next week, but I might just shadow the two of you. I mean,
come on by. Yeah.
Right? My goodness.
There's a little funny side story here, Kurt. I know we're clipping in on time here, but I'm gonna go ahead and see anyway.
Yeah, please.
So Zach was sort of worried about, boy, are we gonna get enough people to show up to these live events, these meetups? And I said, Zach, I'm telling you, people are really hungry for the trail right now. And he's like, I don't know, man. I just hope we get 50. I said, listen, if we get anything less than 50, I owe you a 6-pack. Otherwise, if we get more than 50, you owe me. Right now, we're at 190. So I'm going to let you decide who won.
That's great.
So you tell me who won the live meetup.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
And we really appreciate Delafield Brewhouse for hosting us one night. We have outdoor space, so people can feel good about being outdoors, hopefully a little less exposed. And knowing that they have an Ice Age Trail Ale on tap at the Delafield Brewhouse when they make there. And then we're going to be at the Hop House, is the other location in Fitchburg. Huge supporters of the trail, great folks with wonderful craft. And then it'll also be on outdoors. And that live podcast is going to be something to showcase. And I think the only thing I'd add to what Zach said is that, the content that they're creating on this trip isn't just going to be for a week. So it'll last longer than just a week, and the promotion of Wisconsin and the trail is going to last beyond their fish fry bender in Wisconsin.
Love it. I love it, guys. It's so smart. Heads up marketing.
Yeah. I'll say this, and it's like I think it's great, and the fish fries, the beer, and you're spot on, because let's not forget, such a big part of this initiative is about the communities as well. It's like, it's getting people on the trail, but it's also about getting people to visit these trail communities and spend money and to experience the community. So maybe they come back. There's some great breweries, there's some great restaurants, there's some great people. And that's what a big part of this is. We're selling the communities just as much as we are selling the trail, because the communities are trail communities are a part of the trail experience. And I know I always personally enjoy it as well. There's nothing better than after a day. I love pitching my tent, but I like finding a brewery too and having a few beers and calling it a day as well. That's a good thing. As we start to close up here, I guess I'm going to give the two of you final word, but I just want to make sure it's clear. So first things first, if someone wants to do the Mammoth Hike Challenge, Luke, why don't you? It's pretty easy, right? This isn't hard. It's free. Tell them what they need to do. Go
to iceagetrail.org. Follow the links to sign up. It's on our scrolling banner. Register your family. You can hike as a team. You don't even have to hike 41 miles as an individual. Your team can do it. And we'll send everyone on the team a patch with this. This is the logo, slightly different color variation. Thank you, Celtic, for knocking out a bunch again. So a team of 10 can each do 4 mile or 4 and whatever that number is to get to 41. And we'll send you all a patch and a certificate signed by the Mike Woolmer, our executive director and CEO. So yeah, go
on
ahead
right now and sign up.
Yeah. What we do is we send you a little information where the trail communities are. We also have an app that we use. It's called Strive On. You can download it so people can see businesses that we partner with, if they want to go support those businesses. And just really cool things in each of the communities to do. So don't think about it necessarily as just straight up all hiking. Think about it as hiking and then doing the river walk in Baraboo, or going to a bakery somewhere, or these other sorts of ideas. So it doesn't have to be this trudge necessarily. We want you to go to the communities and see what they have to offer.
It's fun. It's no doubt it's fun. It was a great experience last year. We had a blast, and the communities were hitting the communities afterwards were every bit as fun as the hike themselves. Final words. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you wish we would have, or is there anything that's on your mind as we close? I'll start with Zach. Is there anything that is on your mind or you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, so it's been a minute since I have had the great pleasure of drinking in Wisconsin. What's the hot beer nowadays aside from Spotted Cow? I'm very familiar with Spotted Cow and much of what New Glarus has to offer. What else should I be looking forward to?
Fermentorium.
Go. Well, hit the Fermentorium. So we're drinking it here. It's very good. There's beer everywhere. I mean, as you know, you spent some time here, so I know Luke's going to take you to some good watering holes. I have no doubt. Luke, you're not going to run out of options for Zach, I'm sure, when it comes to beer. So Zach, don't worry about it.
Okay.
That decision will be made for you. You'll always have a beer in hand. But yeah, there's some good beer. This was a good one too, Fermentorium, but they're all over. You'll have a good time. Luke, what about you? Any final words? Anything that was on your mind you wish that I would have asked, Pat would have asked, or anything you want to plug as we wrap up?
No, I think you guys did great job, Pat and Kurt. Thanks for having us here. Please come out, check it out, and by all means, stop at our office. You know, we're in Cross Plains. We are a trail community ourselves, and nothing makes us happier than talking with hikers when they come by, and we'll load you full of resources and stuff that you need to have an enjoyable hike. And please do sign up, join us on the trail. If you want to go to the 2 meetups that the Meetup and the Live podcast that Zach talked about, there's also a special registration for that. There will be beer flowing and cheese curds bubbling, so in the fryer. So please join us, and we look forward just to having a good time and making sure people are out there being safe, having fun, and enjoying the highlights of what Wisconsin has to offer. So check out the Fall Colors map and our partners at the Department of Tourism, and we're going to be launching a map, an ArcGIS map that will showcase the route that Zach and his team are going to be taking. So if you, after they're done and you listen to the podcast, you think, boy, I'd like to take that trip too, you can do the same thing. And in there's also a map for the Fall Colors report. So we're hearing right now that we're in peak color along the northern tier. So Zach may be a little bit past prime, but you'll still get lots of good color, but you'll be able to catch it as you move south. So good time to be in Wisconsin.
It's happening quickly. It's happening quickly. So there you have it. Wow. Big thanks to Luke from the Ice Age Trail Alliance, Zach from the Trek for joining us here today. I'm telling you folks, get out on the Ice Age Trail for a walk or a hike, visit one of the communities, especially in the month of October. It is a beautiful time of year here in Wisconsin, but I will say year round, this trail is a gem. Get on it. I know firsthand because I'm out there often. So to learn more, join, volunteer, become a member, register for the Mammoth Hike Challenge, hit up iceagetrail.org. And thank you to both of you. Until next time, cheers. This was Over a Pint. Thanks, everyone.